The first one is House Bill 888, and this is by Representative Shelby Slauson. Here's what you need to know. If a child, a 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old child, or a young adult, or an older adult, is meeting with medical professionals and they're telling them, hey, I can turn you into a girl, even though you're a boy. I can turn you into a woman, even though you're a man. And they start treating them. There are circumstances, increasingly common circumstances, where these individuals later on in life go, that person lied to me. They've ruined my body. They've butchered me. They've destroyed this body that was given to me by a creator who designed me with a specific purpose, sex, and gender. And so they then go to a lawyer and say, what do I do to these people that completely lied to me? Now, in many red states, the lawyer will say, we can take those people to court, but not in Texas in almost all the circumstances. We have laws that make it very, very, very hard. And in some cases, there is only a 2-year statute of limitations. So if this 16-year-old stops treatment at 17, if they don't find a lawyer and file a lawsuit by the time they're 19, in almost every circumstance, the lawsuit gets thrown out. They never even get a day in court. HB 888 by Shelby Slauson was filed to say we're going to extend that period of time that they have to realize they were lied to and abused in these circumstances and take their abusers to court. That bill passed out of committee, and the Calendars Committee put it on the very last calendar so the Democrats could kill it. The Calendars Committee, led by Dustin Burrows, killed that bill. HB 3502 by Jeff Leach is another bill related to detransitioners, HB 3502. And here's what this did. So we have a bunch of health insurance companies that are all leftists in the policies that they have. And here's what I mean. They will say, hey, little kid, you want to get puberty blockers? You want to get hormone therapy? You want to get the cross-sex hormones? You want to get a surgery? We'll pay for it. We'll cover it. We'll do it. You want to keep getting all these drugs? Great. But let's say that child who then becomes a young adult says, no, I'm actually a woman and I'd like to get the treatment to try to restore as much of my physical body as possible. I want to restore and return to how I was created. The insurance company will say, oh, we don't pay for any of that. Sorry, you have to pay for all that out of pocket. See, we're only in the business, the evil business of butchering your body. We'll pay for that all day long. But if you want to be restored, we're not interested. HB 3502 said, no, no, no. If you're going to pay for the evil acts, you have to pay for the restoration. The Calendars Committee, Dustin Burrows, killed that bill. They put it at the very end. Oh man, the Democrats killed it, is what they all cried. Didn't happen. Dustin Burrows killed that bill. After those two bills died, there was still another Senate Bill 1029 by Bob Hall. And this bill had a ton of stuff in it regarding all the transition that was happening to kids and all these things. But in it were several different policies that helped detransitioners. So if those bills had died and House leadership had been serious about, oh my gosh, we didn't know Democrats were going to kill this bill when we put it on a silver platter, they could have said, hey, let's take Senate Bill 1029 and move it through the process because the calendar still allows us to move it. That bill went to the State Affairs Committee, never even got a hearing. Weren't serious about protecting detransitioners. Senate Bill 1601 by Brian Hughes was a bill that was filed in the Senate, passed the Senate on April 24th, had a hearing, got through the process. The Senate put all its due diligence in, and this bill was very simple. It said, if you're going to host these drag queen story hours, you're not getting public funds. So remember, we passed the drag show ban, but what the drag show ban said was that you cannot perform these sexual performances in front of kids, okay? So you can't dance and shake your crotch and, do all sorts of crazy things right in front of a kid. That's a good bill. But here's the truth. All of these libraries can still say, hey, we've got this creepy dude that's going to dress up like a woman and come read to your kids. And that's disgusting. Senate Bill 1601 said, hey, if you're going to host any of those events, even though they're not performing in a sexual manner, you're not going to get state money. We're not going to give you money. We're not going to give you collectively all the Texans' taxpayer dollars. That was sent to State Affairs, never even got a hearing. It passed the Senate in early April with plenty of time. Senate Bill 162 by Charles Perry was the Birth Certificate Sex Protection Bill. This bill said that your sex has to be on your birth certificate. Right now, it says gender of the kid, male, female, or other. A couple years ago, Texas said, hey, why don't we just start putting a bunch of others down? This says we're going to put a sex section and we're going to say it's male or female and it can't be changed. By the way, this law should also apply to a gender section if that section is also on a birth certificate. You can't change your gender and you can't change your sex. Here's the thing. Currently in Texas law, parents can decide that Tommy, born a boy, lived a boy, assigned a boy, created as a boy, can become a girl. And they can go and change his birth certificate to say Tommy's a girl. That means that the state of Texas is participating in these evil acts. That's what that means. And Senator Charles Perry filed a bill to say, we don't want to participate in that. The Senate took it up. They passed it out. They sent it over to the House. This bill passed in March in the Senate. Never received a hearing in the Texas House. Stephanie Click never even gave it a hearing. How gross. The bill died. Stephanie Click killed it. Senate Bill 1446 by Brian Hughes was an ESG ban on state pensions. And what that is the reality that all these corporations and all these investment managers are pushing these leftist ideas through publicly funded, all of these public pension funds. And what they do is they go into these corporations and they say, you have to pass all these ESG initiatives. ESG stands for environmental and social governance. Okay. And I don't have time to go through all these details because we've got 49 bills to go through. But what you need to understand is that they basically vote for liberal policies to be enacted on a corporate level, not a government level, but a corporate level. And in this situation, they're using our state pensions. So all of our taxpayer dollars have been collected into some of the biggest pensions in the world. Your 401k tries to go and vote on a conservative issue and push against a liberal policy. You got very little swing, depending on how big your 401k is. But here's the thing. The state of Texas pension system has a lot of pull. And if they're going to vote against all these ESG initiatives, and if they're not going to invest with managers who are pushing the ESG initiatives, there's two different things. One is don't vote for the liberal policy. The other is, hey, I don't want our money being managed by some guy who's becoming a cajillionaire and has these super liberal ideas and is trying to push these liberal policies. This would have said our pension system's getting out of the ESG business, passed the Senate, was delayed for weeks in the Pensions and Investments and Financial Services Committee, which is chaired by Giovanni Capriglione. But ultimately, Dustin Burrows and all of his Republican members on the Calendars Committee killed the legislation. They placed it on the last calendar, and they never got to it. There was another ESG bill, Senate Bill 1060, Senate Bill 1060. This is the ESG insurance shareholder bill. So there was an ESG insurance bill that passed, I think it was 883 or 833, but Senate Bill 1060 was going to say, again, insurance companies, you can't enact these shareholder policies that are pushing these leftist ideas. The Calendars Committee, Dustin Burrows, killed that bill. SJR 70 by Brian Hughes was a parental rights constitutional amendment. And this was a constitutional amendment that passed the Senate with only 3 Democrats voting against it. Here's what I want you to realize. If you're wondering how bad is the Texas House of Representatives, the Texas Senate passed this parental rights constitutional amendment that simply said, hey, just FYI, the parents are supreme over the state when it comes to their children. And it established that constitutionally so that any other people that show up in the future that say, hey, we're going to try to kind of get around mom and dad and get to the kid, and the state is going to start taking over as the role of the parent, that's not going to happen. It passed the Senate, and only 3 Democrats were radical enough to vote against the bill. So this isn't something that's even like all the Democrats oppose it, all the Republicans support it. That bill never even got a hearing. The State Affairs Committee, chaired by Todd Hunter, killed that bill. The last one that fits kind of within these cultural issues is Senate Bill 163. Donna Campbell, parental consent for sex ed. Here's what you need to understand. Right now, parents consent for their kid to get into sex education, but this requirement expires in 2024. So Donna Campbell said, hey, I don't want that to expire. I want this to be replaced. It was a great bill. opt in for sex ed. But the reality is that that bill died in the Texas House. Senate Bill 163, dead. It was sent to the Public Education Committee, who sat on it for a little while. They sent it to the Calendars Committee, and then Dustin Burrows put it on the very last calendar. Dustin Burrows and the Republicans on the Calendars Committee killed this bill.